important for me, for you to say for me, is what are the stuff that we still have to get to? What are the points that we still have to get to?
Well, we have a long way to go. Imam Khomeini made us duty-bound to strive for bringing justice to the world. So we have a long way to go. I'll give you an example. The British democracy, or so-called democracy, took 300 years to build. Democracy is not something that can be injected. Islamic democracy needs time to develop and go forth. This is, I'm not talking about technology. I'm not talking about, putting satellites into space or cloning of animals. I'm not talking on that level. I'm talking about a humanity, a movement within human society toward a better future, so that everybody's children can go out and play in the sun unafraid of bullets and bombs, not just ours, everybody's, so that everybody's children on this planet can go out without the fear of prejudice or religious or oppression or political oppression. We're not doing this just for Iran. We're doing this for everybody. And America could not believe, and Britain, they did not believe that we would have the staying power, because they had dominated Iran's politics in such a way that the Iranian nation would tire of any movement within one generation. But we mean to stay here. And the gentleman, Mr. Lam in Beirut, talked about American attack. Mm-hmm. Now, they go and build a film about a Greek fairy tale called 300. I'd like to tell the world now that there were 278 Hezbollah defenders against the 30,000-man Israeli army in southern Lebanon. They died to the last man, but they defeated the fourth best army in the world. Now, according to the Americans, Hezbollah in Lebanon is trained by Iran. They are going to be for a surprise if they're foolish enough to think that there is a military solution to to Iran. The U.S. would, I advise the U.S. administration and the Zionist lobby to lower their voices, understand their position, and approach Iran with the respect that is due to this country. Otherwise, they're going to have, they will be brought to a position where they would have to run to the United Nations to get an order for a ceasefire, just so they can get 30,000 soldiers out, defeated by 278 men.
Yeah, so you did refer to those threats against Iran that we were speaking about earlier, which Mr. Lam did mention. Yes, of course. But I was going to ask you your opinion about these threats. I mean, we remember the 8-year war with Iraq, between Iran and Iraq, and it just happened when Iran was trying to reconstruct after the revolution, and it just made everything worse for Iran, and just the loss, the human loss, the construction, the reconstruction efforts. So how did that affect the revolution, the course of the revolution, and how did the US's and many European states' support for Saddam affect Iran's relations with them and their relations with Iran?
Well, the fact of the matter is the very people who are today shedding crocodile tears for fatalities in the disturbances, post-election disturbances, actively supplied Saddam Hussein with the weapons he required, chemical, biological, to kill Iranian children. My generation was wiped out. Out of my class, there were 2 survivors, and one of them is me. The other survivor, he fought in the front, and he's missing a lung, and he's a chemically wounded veteran. If they care so much for Iran and Iranians, and if they're so upset about what's happening to this country, why should they go and supply weapons to Saddam Hussein, whose only aim was murdering people who stood in their way, who stood in his way, on his henchman's way? In the end, he was the dog they had to put down themselves. All their enterprises of great pitch and moment have come to nothing. They have gone to nothing. They have come to nothing. But The 8-year war created an essential epic for Iranians, a point of reference, a point at which Iran stood against more than 37 countries who were helping Saddam Hussein. We fought off single-handedly a world war, and we had nothing to give other than our children. My generation were killed, were wiped out. And I could sit here and say, well, it was a major tragedy, but it has created the sort of strength and the momentum for the fight for justice to carry on, and as Mr. Lamb put it, to find its way into all other societies. Justice has been central, seeking justice has been central to Iranian society, irrespective of the presence of Islam. But it has been furnished with the strength of Islam, and it will carry on.
So do you believe that when the Americans did support Saddam Hussein during that time, they were actually hoping that maybe they could see the overthrow of the Islamic establishment in Iran? And if so, are they still hoping that that may happen? Or if not, then why are they using the technique of pressure and sanctions and
the thing
threats?
is that they were using an age-old British tactic. They were taking out a generation and creating a gap. So people of my age are not around in order to be able to pass on the epic to the younger generation in Iran. And through that crack of taking out one generation, so that you're taking out the paternal generation, and the youth will not go and listen to their grandfathers. You know, there's just too much distance. By creating that crack in the society, they were hoping to put their plans into action much later, at a later date. It was one. Also, they had no idea that Iranians would be able to fight so well. Again, taking over the oil-rich provinces in Iran is nothing new. It was a British plan which was formed in the mid-19th century. You know, at least the Americans thought, if we cannot defeat Iran at that time, we can at least take away some of their resources. And that didn't happen, and that failed. So the aims are quite clear. Iranians can no longer be fooled. They are now strengthened, and their hearts are filled with faith about the future for Iran. I was a young teenager during the revolution, and I can't say my life has not been filled with difficulties. It's been a bed of flowers because of the revolution and its ramifications. But I advise Iranians to value what they have and to look again at their achievements, and just the fact that, as Mr. Lamb pointed out, unity and resistance has brought us this far. There is nothing that Washington, Tel Aviv, or London can do at this moment in time. Oh, you know, they say, oh, we're worried, you know, they're lobbying for a war on Iran. Well, let them lobby all they like. Let them attempt it.
You referred, Mr. Mokhtari, to the fact that they wasn't expecting that Iran resist to that 8-year war and push Iraq out of the country. And it just reminded me of the event of the revolution. No one was expecting the revolution to be victorious. You know, nothing of those standard requirements for a revolution were there when the revolution happened. So what do you see as the factors behind the victory of the revolution?
The revolution that we talked about, which came to fruition with Imam Khomeini, it was a socio-religious revolution which had begun with Amir Kabir in Iran. It was, but generation after generation of dictators had managed to kill the bravest and the best of this land's children, people like Nouri, like Tahmaspi, like Pesian, were killed, so that the Western rule could be imposed on Iran, so that Iran's wealth could be taken away. But there is a point at which enough is enough.